All right, we are live. Sweet. Thank you, everyone, for waiting for us, and thank you for joining us today. So we've got another live sketch, and really excited to bring you a new topic for this month. We've got a new challenge out where we're having everyone design some eyewear in Gravity Sketch. So it's really exciting. And today we've got some new special guests with us. We've got Hunter and Kartik. I'll let them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do at Gravity Sketch. But hi, my name is Jaren. I'm the content creative content manager at Gravity Sketch, and it's just a real pleasure to interact with all of you in the community. And so we do these lives just about twice a month, I would say, and we the goal really is just to get into the app and demo some of the features, maybe have something to sketch and create, and hopefully inspire all of you out there to continue trying new things and also help discover maybe new workflows in Gravity Sketch. So hopefully this is an educational one for all of you out there, and let's just dive right into it. So today we're going to be making some eyewear, but first, Hunter, Kartik, just love to intro you guys real quick. Kartik, you go first.
Okay, I was just about to say let Hunter go first. But yeah, so I'm Karthik. I'm a design consultant at Gravity Sketch, and my background is industrial design, and I work with our design companies, like with our design customers and the community on an industrial design basis, and work with them to enable them to use Gravity Sketch in their workflows and just uh, make their workflows more friendly towards from a 3D point of view. Yeah, and specifically within that, me and my other colleague Austin, we're exploration consultants, so we do everything that isn't our main points of focus. So everything that's not automotive and footwear comes to us. So I design stuff ranging from water filters to chocolate bars. Yeah, anything and everything under the sun, basically. You want to go, Hunter?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Hunter Elmore. I'm also a design consultant. My realm is automotive, but I have a background in industrial design and transportation design. I've done everything in professional career from designing blasters for Nerf for one of my first experiences through to surgical robotics with Johnson& and Johnson, uh, cars with Ford, all sorts of different stuff. And my role is very similar to that of Karthik's in that I integrate with our clients, help them find the best ways to integrate Gravity Sketch into their workflow, and also help to inform them on any new 3D design workflows that could help augment or improve what they're currently doing. So Gravity Sketch is a tool that I've been using for about 5 or 6 years now and absolutely love it. I've used it in all of those different industries and have always found somewhere where it improves the process. So definitely excited to be here and be interacting with the community.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you, Kartik. Really appreciate your time diving on the live sketch today. Uh, as you can tell, these guys are really well versed with the product, and so it's a real treat to have them on today. And I myself have been using the product probably for maybe like 7 years now, and I'm just a huge fan. So we're all just a bunch of fans here, just like all of you out there in the community, and hopefully we can just share a bit of our workflows today. So as I mentioned, we're going to be designing some eyewear, and if anybody has any questions at all throughout the live, please ask in the chat. And I'll be watching as you guys are putting those comments in, and I'll be sure to ask Hunter or Kartik or answer myself. Um, and let's see, I actually already have a little question here from Noah Sussman. A lot of us here at Gravity Sketch know Noah. Surgical robotics, Hunter, we in the future now? That's what he said. So,
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Surgical robotics was really cool. Definitely a different workflow from I did it right after toys at Nerve, so very different, but pretty cool stuff. Johnson& and Johnson has some awesome robotics that are out on the market now from when I was working with them. So really fun to work on.
Yeah, it was super interesting that the Hunter worked with the same team at Johnson and Johnson, and we've internally at Gravity Sketch also met with that same exact team. And then when he joined the company, we were talking about that.
um, so today, everyone, we're obviously making some eyewear, but we also do want to cover some of the new 6.1 features. Um, we some of them we can't necessarily demo right now just because of the way that we're connecting at the moment. I'm actually tethered to my computer, but one of the new features is that we've got shadows now in pass through for standalone headsets, which is a completely new thing, something that community's been asking for a long time, and we're just really happy to finally bring it to all of you. So we've got shadows that cast in standalone headsets, not only in VR but actually in pass through mode as well. So you can actually see your model casting a shadow in the ground while you're in pass through, which is awesome. We also have a new shader as well. I think let's save that one until we've got a few models going, and we have some surfaces that we can maybe apply the shader to. But yeah, it's a new glossy shader, and then we have export and import menus as well, and interaction that have been released into the product. And so we're going to be showing some of that. Kartik's going to go through some of the new file structure for it's in the library. Is that right, Kartik?
Yep.
Perfect. So we're going to dive into some of that, and yeah. But if anybody has any questions, as I mentioned, feel free to ask away. No Assessment says the lens is to eyewear design what the packaging is to automotive. How do you manage lenses, precision, and gravity sketch? That's a really good question. And I know that Noah actually has experience in eyewear design. He's worked on a lot of eyewear actually. So this is a great question. Lens to eyewear designs, packaging is to automotive. Gosh, how would you guys answer that? I'm going to shoot that over to you guys. You guys are the consultants.
So,
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on it for sure.
yeah, go first, Hunter. You can go.
I actually have, oh gosh, let's see. Looks like I just got disconnected from the cloud in here, so I can't actually pull in the model that I had. But
While, while we wait for Hunter, so I've actually worn glasses for like maybe 10+ years now. Actually, yeah, for about 12 years. So, and I've worn all different kinds of glasses with different kinds of lenses, and I've looked into it a little bit, and I think most of that data in an industrial workflow will come from. So there will be thickness data, and there will be most of the central lens data will come from someone that's working in the field, like an ophthalmologist or someone with a scientific background, and you will sketch around those parameters. So I'm not sure at the moment if they will give you 3D parameters, but they will definitely give you some dimensions and thicknesses that you have to work around. Anything around that is free reign up to you. So I'm not super experienced designing eyewear. I'm pretty sure Hunter can talk more to that.
yeah, I think I was able to just get back in here. So I actually pulled in a reference file of an existing pair of glasses. So this one right here that I just dropped in, this is just a free model that I found online. But the idea of being able to import existing models, this one here is an FBX, so it'll come through with coloration applied, and say that these lenses specifically are what I was designing around. Especially in the earlier workflows, I would likely start with just something as simple as using these as kind of a placeholder, sketching around that and trying to identify where the outer portion of those frames actually hit. And then if I'm trying to get further down into levels of detail for actual surface modeling or getting really detailed with how those are incorporating into the frame, that's when I would use workflows that we actually, like you were saying, Noah, with the package and automotive, sometimes we can turn on the snap mode. So if I go this, uh, into the stroke, I can turn on snap mode down here at the bottom of this from point snap to other objects and splines, point snap to other points. And I would probably turn that on so that I can create a frame by snapping these points around this surface so that I know I have at least some sort of coincident data and refer to what already exists there in the rest of my sketch.
Hunter, do you mind if I copy out your lenses?
Absolutely. Steal away.
Thank you. And if I'm not wrong, if this is an FBX file, you should be able to. Yep. Okay. So now this is a sub-D file, this lens. I don't know if they can see my view, Jaren, but so like Hunter said, this is the basic lens, but there's too many points on this to actually edit the points individually. But what you can do is when it's in edit mode, I can flick my joystick a couple times, which will take me to this mode here. And if I haven't gotten a specific lens to design around, if I'm still playing around with frame shapes, and then if the lens comes later on in the in the process, I can now extend these a little bit. I can play around with the non-uniform scaling tools. And of course, I wouldn't necessarily want to change the thickness because that might mess things up. But you can play around the X and Y axes and make them longer if you want to, or shorter, or just play around with them in 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 any way.
Hey, Kartik, real quick, is your mic on? Real quick, can you turn your mic off? There you go.
Yeah,
Nice. There's just a little bit of feedback there,
no
but no, that
worries.
was great. That was a great point. Yeah, the ability to pull things, from the real world into Gravity Sketch is, I think, really quite straightforward, especially if you can bring in a reference. A real world, real world CAD data is super helpful in this instance. And then allow yourself to play around in Gravity Sketch. I mean, that's really how I see it a lot of times. Is the Gravity Sketch part of it is really the part where you can sort of play around the architecture, or play around the packaging, as Noah was putting it there. Um, and and that's, I think, the true sort of merge between the free sketch, um, the free feeling of sketching, but also anchoring it still to the real world, all the while doing it in 3D. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
duplicate this head here, and I'm gonna, let's see.
And I think with that as well, importing these models doesn't have to be of a real world object. It can also help to kind of sell your design. So one of the things that I prepped is I went on Sketchfab actually and grabbed down a free use model. So this one that I've got over here is of kind of an artistic representation of the statue of David, because I thought it was just cool. So if we import that in here, we can start doing things like art directioning, like creating a feeling or an emotion that facilitates the environment that we're in to get us to a more holistic approach to the design process, right? The great thing about Gravity Sketch that is oftentimes lost in other workflows is the creativity and the fact that you can do this quickly and fun, and you don't have to get lost by the context. It's purely helpful. So the idea of bringing in something that you can use to define the rest of this and make sure that you're matching that art direction, whether that's an object, whether that's a 2D reference image, that's a pretty powerful thing to be able to do. And it doesn't hinder the rest of the workflow.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so like these that I'm sketching right now, this is a pretty, I'd say, expected pair of glasses, but we can always work with the tools, right? Like it's easy in a lot of other tools and a lot of other workflows to come in and have to have an exact idea of what you're going to do. In this case, I'm a big fan of, I'd like to think of Gravity Sketch as an intent finding tool as much as it is an execution tool. And because of that, I can move these sketches around, play with things a bit, and just try to get unexpected results. A good way that I've found to do that is to use methods like kit bashing, or bring in just completely disparate ideas. So for instance, I've got some like rough kit bashing assets in here that are from a mech file. So just some kit bashing mech stuff. And if I turn that up, I can start to use these as details or textures within my models to have some more fun with it, right? And that can go from anywhere of detailing to actually building out full volumes. So like these are just pre-built assets that I can drop in. I picked some that I thought were particularly handy for eyewear, but really quickly you can start to like generate that emotional feeling of what you're going for. So if I know that I want these to be kind of a,
It's a great way to really like kickstart the sort of like the iteration process or the exploration uh, phase as well when you have these assets being brought in. Um, and especially if you're like a brand or if you have brand assets, this is a great way to like anchor your design process around those brand elements as well. Um, and uh, and continue sort of the relevance, of your design, yeah, connected with your brand style. Um, and so it doesn't even have to be like, random stuff. It could be like, you know, pieces, logos, shapes and forms, colors, even that reflect your brand, that you can
yeah,
actually pull right in as you're designing.
absolutely. Like for instance, when I was at Nerf, we had specific vent patterns that were more or less greebles for us, but they did align to the brand in a way that if we could maintain that through multiple products, it helped create a brand identity. So something like that would be extremely helpful in these workflows. And another thing that I want to talk through here while I'm doing it is just the idea of having freeform scaling. So the fact that that's really helpful in automotive, obviously, because we can scale things up to full scale and act like we're inside the interior. But in something like this, which is a very detailed product design, we're talking relatively small scale for some of these details that we get here in eyewear. You can scale yourself up as far as you want. You can get as detailed and as involved in that surface as you could ever really want to be. So the idea of getting in there and cleaning things up as if you are under a microscope, that can be intimidating, but it can also lead to some really interesting results that you may not think through if you don't have that capability.
Yep. And I think something that's super interesting about eyewear is that although it's quite a small product, you might be wondering if you're not from an eyewear background, like what is there to design in a pair of sunglasses. But the amount of detailed surfacing, for example, in a pair of Oakleys or a pair of or like the new Meta Ray-Ban glasses that are just present in in the tiniest bits that people don't even pay attention to on a on a daily basis is insane. There is so many complex surfaces right around here in this sketch that are quite common for most pairs of sunglasses, and I think Gravity Sketch is a great way to figure out how those surfaces flow into each other. Those surfaces are just constructed. So I'm going to move quite quickly here from creating a sketch into starting to surface this in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing too with Gravity Sketch, I know I keep saying another thing, but there's always another thing. One thing that I find really cool about Gravity Sketch is when I was in school and when I worked with a lot of these different companies, there was always a different mindset, but there was always kind of an established mindset in terms of what kind of modeling you're doing. Are you doing Class A? Are you doing hard surface? Are you doing, what tool are you using? Is that Rhino? Is that SolidWorks? Is that Alias? And is that Blender? I learned a lot of those tools and found that each one kind of directs you into a very specific approach to design. And in order to break out of that, you have to be very intentional and thoughtful about breaking out of those constraints and those guidelines that the different programs kind of lead you into. With a program like Gravity Sketch, where we have workflows with the exact same tools for everything from hard surface to soft goods to really anything you can think of, it can lead to a lot more unexpected results. Like one of the things I was kind of thinking about just while I was prepping for this session was this visual of like the blindfold on Lady Liberty, or the it's kind of silly because it's an anime thing, but in Jujutsu Kaisen there's or not Lady Liberty, but the lady with the scales. There's another character in Jujutsu Kaisen that wears a blindfold, and that idea of like soft surfacing is pretty interesting to me. So I wanted to spend some of this time to kind of think through an idea of a hard surface pair of glasses that mimics the look of a soft good, of a actual blindfold. So I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time doing that. But the fact that the program facilitates that and lets you have that creativity is why I've always come back to it. If I know I want to do a hard surface and I know exactly what it is, sure, maybe another program is really fast to do that in. But if I'm really trying to find intent and come up with something unexpected, that is much more compelling to perform in Gravity Sketch for me.
That's a great point, guys.
That's another. So another cool thing I really like to do, especially for a workflow like this, is use the volume tool. And I like to think of the volume tool as basically sketching with like the thickest marker you've got in your marker set. So like a Sharpie or a really thick Prismacolor marker. So I just basically use it as I can put up whatever different colors I want. Say I wanted like a blue and a black colorway for this pair of glasses, and I will just very quickly build out a form. So the volume tool I think is arguably the most fun tool to use in Gravity Sketch, and probably my favorite one. And it's so easy to knock out like quick shapes, and then use these shapes as underlays later to like start surfacing and start building out the actual design. So yeah, I will just do that, and then I can copy over this again, and so it's the easiest way to get across multiple iterations into your design workflow. So look at what different guidelines you can have, and you can go crazy with it at this point because you're so early on in the process that it doesn't matter what you do with the volume tool. It's like those posted ideas. You can never have a bad one.
Yeah, the volume tool is one of my favorite workflows, especially for hard surface, because you can build just an idea out so quickly and evaluate things like proportion and volume so effectively. And especially if you're integrating into a different workflow as well, like exporting to Viscom or really any other software, having that volume built in can have huge advantages. I love the volume tool workflow.
Yep, and you can also like pick two different colors and see what a combination, like Hunter was talking about brand guidelines. If you've got a colorway for your brand that you need to follow, like say blue and black, yellow and black, you can even start picking out those colors now at this stage and then see what the balance of the two colors looks like and where you would want tiny accents of each different color.
Yeah, this is great, guys. Great workflow. Um, yeah, I think the thing that I really enjoy is I have a sense of all ideas are okay to explore. Like, there's nothing that's really saying, oh no, you can't really do that, or you probably shouldn't explore that because that's going to be kind of hard, you know. I have a sense of all ideas are welcome in a way, and even if it's just like a little doodle, like I don't have to do a surface of something, but I can just maybe I doodle it and see what it looks like in 3D, and then that's enough to be like, okay, there's something to that idea, you know. Let's develop that further, or you know, okay, it's not as compelling as I thought it was going to be, so let's move on. But it's like just that freedom to really just kind of evaluate and see in 3D. You know, is this really compelling, or is there something, or do I just need to get out of my system? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes back to kind of what I was trying to get at with the idea of like forcing a very intentionally different workflow into a tool that kind of pushes you into a corner with workflows. And that's something that I've always really enjoyed doing, is trying to take a program like SolidWorks and really force organic surfacing into it, or take a program like Blender and try to push in the Boolean workflows and make it very hard surface approach. What's awesome about Gravity Sketch is that it doesn't push back, right? You can push different workflows into it and it just rolls with the punches. It does almost everything that I could ever really want it to do. It may not be everything like perfectly parametric or everything perfectly resolved, but it is absolutely a way to explore and a way to build out those different things. And like you said, get it out of your system. Find out if you really want to do that direction, or is it just a knee-jerk reaction to thinking that you either can't do it because of the tool you're using, or is it purely cool because of it being different? Gravity Sketch is really, really helpful in making sure that you're evaluating things fairly, because the level of effort required to get an idea out facilitates that idea that you're not overly invested in an idea purely for the sense of it being something that you've worked a long time on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's in school you learn to get all the bad ideas out first. So if you did 100 bad ideas, at least one good one's going to come out of that. And I think this is a great way. And I was recently in a call with or in a session with a user, and she said that this is the first time she could think in 3D, and she could actually think while doing
Oh,
this.
wow.
And she was a massive user of like other 3D programs, but a lot of them, maybe Blender allows you to do this a little bit, but a lot of them you have to think outside, plan everything, and then execute in the program. And she said this is the first time I can just think on the go while I'm doing 3D, and I think that's something that really stuck with me, which is true in my workflow as well. Like I would use 3D just for execution's sake. I would sketch a lot, think on paper, think on Photoshop, and then just execute in Rhino or in SolidWorks. And then now I've started thinking in 3D ever since I used Gravity Sketch. So that's amazing. And like Hunter said, I think a part of our jobs here, as me and Hunter, is to teach people Gravity Sketch, right? But teaching people Gravity Sketch is just the smallest part of it, because there isn't even that much to teach in terms of tools in Gravity Sketch. You could count the number of tools you have in Gravity Sketch on your two hands, but it's what you make of it, and you can produce like hundreds of different workflows out of the same 10 different tools. It's like just a permutation combination thing, using different tools at different stages and figuring out different ways. And like Hunter said, there's no prescriptive way of using Gravity Sketch. You can't really teach someone Gravity Sketch more than you can teach them just the tools that exist, which aren't that many. And then it's up to the designer to use them the way he wants to use them. We see people using Gravity Sketch in new ways every single day at our jobs, which is amazing, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's always fun because every time we go into a new company or we meet new people or new hires at companies who have been using a tool or are just brand new to it, there's always a different workflow. There's always a different preferred way to use it. And it integrates so well with the other tools that people are already comfortable with that it's not an issue of throwing out time that you spent learning a different tool. It's not an issue of giving up on something that you dedicated your career to learning. It's more so facilitating that and giving you the freedom to really use those tools for what they're meant for, and coming here to use this tool for what it's meant for, which is really just fitting into your workflow and doing just about everything that you could ask of it.
Yep. I think before, so I think there's one thing, Jaren, that we talked about earlier that I haven't gotten to showing yet is
Yeah.
my favorite new update in the new 6.1.1 has got to be. Can you pin to my view?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, so are you able to see my
I
menus?
can't pin to your view, but I'm right with you.
So you can see my menus, right?
No, well, I can't see the settings menu. Let's see. No, I can't see the settings per se, but
But you can see the little menu here.
yeah,
Is that okay? Cool. So I think my favorite new update is the fact that we finally have one place for all kinds of inputs. So a big pet peeve of mine was the fact that reference images and prefabs were two separate things. The fact that it was called prefabs would confuse people as well. And I think your 3D files and your reference images were separated. And then sometimes you would also, like I've spent a good 10 minutes looking for my 3D files while I'm in the reference images without realizing, and then getting stressed out that I can't find them. And then I realize that I'm in the wrong section. Yeah, but now it's all unified into one. And down here, you can choose whether it shows you 3D models, images, or videos. So then I can go into, you can't obviously see this part of it, but yeah, it's now unified into one space, which is honestly my favorite new update.
yeah.
It's 1.1.
It's huge. We haven't been making videos on that one, but that really is a huge one, honestly. Just ease of mind in navigating files, keeping things just more centralized, honestly. So I'm really excited about this update as well. It's a good call out. Let's see. And if anybody, just as a reminder, if anybody's got questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I see there's a few things. Let me see if I can read a couple here. I'm going to position this so I'm not looking at it from an awkward angle. I'm going to move this down. Just right here. And okay, so we've got, is there ever going to be physics? Good question. Definitely has been brought up many times. Highly requested. On the topic of physics, the team has definitely experimented with it. There's definitely no promise that this will be in Gravity Sketch anytime soon in the future. But we are well aware of people in the community, their desire for some physics in Gravity Sketch. And I would say to all of you out there, if you really want it, keep on saying it, keep on asking for it, and be specific. You know, how would you use it? Why would you use it? Because that's really every feature and every update is truly driven by the community. So the louder you are about it, the more we hear about it, I think the more it gets considered. So keep on sharing your ideas and what you'd like to see in the tool.
If you want a good taste of physics, if you've ever tried going into pass-through mode, you can grab your headset, take it off of your head, and when you're getting into pass-through mode, you can actually throw that. You can throw that little mock-up headset, and it will bounce off of things. It will bounce off of things. That's the only little bit of physics we have at the moment, but it's quite fun. Like sometimes I've like sketched out a little basketball hoop and like just thrown my headset, tried to play a game, throwing my headset into it. It's quite fun to do.
Yeah, I love playing with that, just taking it off and throwing it across the room. It is very cathartic.
Let's see how far.
There was a version of Gravity Sketch that was made a couple of years ago. We never really shared this, but where every object you drew immediately fell to the ground, and it would just fall to the ground. That was it. You could pick it up and stack it if you wanted, but that was it. And it was more of just a fun experiment project. But yeah, if there's physics is something that you want, definitely keep talking about it and keep asking for it and share how you'd be using it.
A number of our engineers, we do something called innovation days internally at Gravity Sketch, where we have just people working on fun projects that will probably never see the light of day. But yeah, one of our engineers made a little VR game within Gravity Sketch where you could, I think it was a mini golf game. That was super fun to play.
Let's see. When is it going to be possible? When is it possible to group layers? Well, you can group layers now, I believe.
You can group objects. You can't group. You can't make groups of layers.
So layer hierarchy is something that's tricky, and we've had conversations about this, but it's also got to do with our exports. So different programs treat layer hierarchy differently, and so like for example, FBX files and OBJ files treat layer hierarchies differently. So at the moment, I mean, I'm not sure why you're looking to group layers, but you can achieve the same thing, same output by grouping your objects and putting them on layers. Right?
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking of actually. Yeah, as far as grouping the layers and having basically an actual group layer group, that's not possible in Gravity Sketch at the moment. But hey, again, share how you'd like to use it. I think generally it's probably organization. I think it would be a great addition, almost like a Photoshop type of approach where you just have like layer groups. But
yeah, I think that's what you described, Karthik, is how I would go about it as well. Where it's just a matter of right now organizations are in the individual groups, and then in the individual layers, we have had, like you were saying, Jaren, a lot of feedback saying let's get layer groupings. I know that we've talked about that internally. It's definitely on the radar. But yeah, like you're saying, keep being loud. That'll get it there faster.
Someone saying, will there ever be a demonstration on Gravity Sketch for use in development of an architectural project? That's a great question. There are some people in the community doing that, I will say. That's a great suggestion. I think that could be an awesome topic for the next live. And that's something else I want to say is if any of you out there have ideas for what you'd like to see in more live sketches, put them in the chat. We're really open to it. We've got a lot of our own ideas, but if you've got your ideas out there that you'd like to see, I mean, we're gonna go with that. So please put your ideas out there. I think architecture would be great.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
And VR really lends itself well to, not only just like getting into the 3D and understand something's shape, but also proportion and sort of real world proportions. And so you can make things look big, feel big, walk through it. It's obviously really hard to perceive that watching on a screen, but um, you know, we also intend on sharing files through live sketches as well with the community. So maybe it's something we can make, and then everybody else can experience it later.
Absolutely.
I had a pair of sunglasses somewhere. Did someone see that?
Well,
It happens to you in real life all the time. It's happening to you in VR.
I
What's
don't
that?
know.
I said I keep losing my glasses in real life, but you've lost them in VR. That's the first.
I don't see any on the layer. Maybe it's
Oh,
on
you know
hidden.
what? I deleted it. I made like a bunch of layers and I grabbed and deleted it. But then, shouldn't the undo like bring it back?
I'm not sure if it'll undo layer.
Oh, I don't
deletion.
think undo brings back layer deletion, Jaren.
Yeah, you're right. That was an oopsie on my part. Oh well.
It's a good thing to bring up with QA, though. Not sure if that's intentional or not.
What's that?
It's a good point to bring up with our team. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but you should be able to.
Yeah, I was totally mindlessly just making some layers and I just deleted it, but it's no big deal. You guys have got some
Now,
cool stuff here. Do you
Yeah, I think.
do you mind
Oh,
if
go
I
ahead.
like take this one and like surface it, Hunter?
Absolutely. Go play with it.
I'll grab this.
That collaboration is a big part of the fun here, right? Is
Yeah.
that it's not one person hunched over a sketch at the desk and not having any external input. It's like, hey, we can share that and collaborate on this ideation process here and come up with something really cool.
Yeah, that is a good call out, Hunter. It's pretty obvious by now at this point. I mean, we're all the same virtual space, but like, it's a really, I mean, this is like a great example of like I can just take Hunter's sketch and um, work off of it. I felt inspired, by that like little doodle. So I'm like, let's just see what I can do with it and have some fun. And it's all in real time, and we can kind of like huddle together at some point and see like, okay, is that working? I don't know. Is that interesting? So like it's almost like more work gets done, more real design work gets done. That's useful, and
Yeah,
and it's just it creates for more productive, but also more collaborative. I actually really feel like the collab space is almost like a little workshop. It's like I'm going into the studio and let's just like play with some shapes, some concepts, some ideas, and and see if anything sticks.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know it helped me a lot with the sometimes in design you can feel a bit paralyzed at times to share concepts if you don't think it's ready to be shown or it's ready to get someone else's eyes on it. The great thing about these collab sessions is that, I mean, obviously it's collaborative. So we're seeing each other working on this, and there's no judgment on like, oh, is that perfect? Because we know it's not done. And so that idea of having each other at these earlier stages to work together and evaluate things and have input on each other's stuff, it does something pretty incredible for the sense of camaraderie and working together within a design studio that I don't know if I've ever really seen another tool do. It kind of gives you that feeling of doing a sketch blitz or
Yeah.
an innovation workshop where everyone's able to work together. And it's like, I know one of the groups that I've worked with before is Kinetic Vision, which is a consultancy here in Cincinnati. And Tony, who was our director of innovation there, he had this term that he would use. He called it no-kill shelter. So the idea that every idea is okay, and that you can share whatever you want, because if we don't share ideas and if we're scared to share ideas, then we're not going to hear some of the best ones, right?
It's very true.
Yeah, and I
Good
think
point.
gravity sketch is also, there used to be a notion back in the day when I was in school and gravity sketch wasn't a big deal. And it wasn't really a thing, that 3D has always got to be finished. So if you're showing someone a 3D model, it's got to be finished, final, and perfectly done with no mistakes and no loose ends. And I think now with gravity sketch, it's just normalized the fact that 3D can be just as rough as 2D can be. So if you showed someone a rough doodle or a sketch, that's completely acceptable. But an unfinished 3D model wasn't very acceptable before. And now I think, yeah, the stuff we're doing here is not even close to finished, but it's still very acceptable to be shown in the design process. Actually, more directors and more leadership would like to see this and the process than a finished 3D model. And how you got there is actually more important to them.
Yeah, that's a good point, guys. Absolutely. Let me look at the comments here real quick. Yeah. Yep, just some agreement there. Will Gravity Sketch be on Apple Vision Pro? The big question.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I think I've got this question about 25 times since around.
Yeah. Yeah. So really the answer for that one is there's no plans at the moment. It's definitely something we're keeping our eye on, and definitely something that we're interested in watching. There's no real concerted effort on that at the moment. Yeah, that's pretty much the
I
basic
think
answer. It may not be very satisfying right now, but just keep in mind, it's a lot of work. It will be a lot of work, if that eventually happens. Especially considering the fact that Vision Pro has no controller, so there would be a redesign of the UX of Gravity Sketch, which could be pretty pivotal. But resources are we have to be careful where we allocate resources and things like that. So, but that's the official answer.
I think the real question here is, when is that actually coming out? Because yes, we've seen some videos, but I don't know if it's even going to make it to shelves this year or next year.
The Vision Pro.
Yeah, not 100% convinced it's going to actually be consumer. Maybe developers will get to buy it earlier, but I'm not convinced that consumers will be able to buy it for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I think there's definitely some tech influencers out there that have given their thoughts on it. It seems like it's maybe like Apple is allowing developers to define the use case of the headset, and so that's really interesting. And so I think really just time's going to tell. Only time will tell on how it really ends up panning out in terms of how it's used. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I also think that there could be a future where, like you were saying, there's no controllers, and that might be an issue. But I think that there could be a future where that might not be a big deal, because maybe they will open it up for third-party controllers, and then there could be a whole industry where people are just developing different kinds of controllers for different applications on the Vision Pro.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that gets me most excited about the Vision Pro is what it's going to do for the headset market in general. Look at typically what happens when Apple brings a product to market is it brings that subsector of the market to the forefront. And suddenly there's a lot of competitors who are trying to get in on that slice of pie. And usually that competitive kind of environment is really good for progression of tools. So things like these VR headsets that we're using, Meta obviously made some huge improvements and changes to the landscape when they joined in. And so from a from a product design standpoint, I think that more competition is only going to help and improve everything that we're seeing across the board, because you got to keep up, right? You got to provide something that's as good, if not better, than the competitor, and that'll, I think, bring some pretty nice improvements to a lot of the hardware that we're using.
Yep. So Jaren, if you could quickly come by where I am.
Sure.
Yeah, so now that I've quickly done a little bit of surfacing, and I went from a sketch to a volume shader to a, I've gone by this workflow quite quickly, to be honest. Yeah, like a volume sketch, and then now like this is a surface model, and now I can see, now I've taken it off the mannequin, and I can see how the general shape of these glasses go from, they're quite wide, and they're quite like as if you've worn them for a year already. So now I know that I need to adjust that shape a little bit. So now I can go into my, honestly, again, one of my favorite tools is this non-uniform scale. Make this bit wider, and then grab this, and then I can grab the ends here and then squeeze them in. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect initially, but then you can obviously edit that later. So you're just playing around at the moment, but you can make things narrower, make things wider. Now I know what I have to fix is the angle of these things. So what I can also do is separate them out with, you know, how many of you guys have used this? It's quite hidden in our tool belt, but there's a separate and merge tool. So I'm going to separate out the, what do you call this? Do you guys know the things on the side of your glasses?
Yeah, I would say the separate tool.
No, the things on the side of the glasses. Do you know what they're called?
Oh, the arms?
They call the arms. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I'll buy that. That sounds right.
I think I'm pretty sure, but I'm like 90% sure.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. I don't know what else they would, maybe like ear grabbers.
Yeah. If you're still watching, let us know in the comments.
Yes, now I've got the arms. As you can see, I've got the arms and the ear grabbers and the main bit separated out. And then now I can go into my selection tool, select just this, and because it's mirrored, I can play around with the angle of these. So it's not mirrored for some reason. Just turn this off. Yeah. And just play around. What I have to do is set the center of rotation to be all the way here in the center of the glasses. And then I can play around with these as much as I want, move them inwards, and then make them straighter or make them a bit more inward like this. And then I can mirror them out again. And now I have this seems to be a bug. Okay. Yeah, but now I have a better angle on these than I did before.
Yeah, your frame is still center, so I wonder why that didn't. Let me see if I can.
Yeah,
see if it does it for me. Oh, that's weird.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this bug might actually be doing what we've been asking for ages, which is local mirror. Actually.
Yeah, it's actually kind of local, because I'm looking at it from a top down, and actually it is. Yeah. It's just like the mirrors on the wrong axis.
Yeah, I think this is what people have been asking for ages, and this
accidental. Well, that's a bit of a bug, but what Kartik was trying to show there is he fixed the angle of the arm, and when you mirror it, it should basically, go like this. But yeah, that was a good point there.
What I can do is bring that here and then do a full rotation and see what that looks like. But yeah, anyway, there's a little bit of a bug there. I think we're still ironing out some things with the 6.1.1 release, but I think the fancy new shadows are definitely enough to keep you guys waiting until the bugs are fixed. See, this is the new glossy shader that we have. I'm not sure if you can see it well.
Yeah, let me fix the. I'm gonna fix the flashlight here so I can see different angle. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the new automotive paint glossy shader that we've got.
Can we just move it up here just so I can move it out of the shadow of the head?
Nice.
Yeah, Noah said super old consumer products always have weird names. He said temples or arms, like you already guessed. Okay. Nice. Temples or arms.
I'm a bit disappointed it wasn't ear grabbers.
Yeah.
I think we should update it.
So, hey, someone was asking too, when or how can I know if I can use Gravity Sketch for companies? I'm interested to land it here in some furniture companies. Great question. If you want to get connected with us and you want to bring Gravity Sketch into your team, reach out to us. Go to our website, gravitysketch.com, and contact us. Get connected. We would love to have a chat with you. and help you out with your design team or whoever, doesn't even have to be designers, and getting Gravity Sketch integrated into your process. So yeah, reach out to us there at Gravity Sketch, gravitysketch.com. Let's see what
Absolutely.
the process looks like to add a joint to the glasses. Oh, someone's asking about joints. You modify the
Interesting.
gizmo of the mirror. Yes, Monadrian, the gizmo, the mirror is bugged. Yeah, it is a bug. It should mirror, but the mirror was a bit broken there. It's just a bug. But yeah, yeah. You guys want to like show a hinge maybe or like something like that?
Yeah, I think for these hinges, like Hunter was talking about, they would normally come as like a kit bashed, as like a standard thing.
Imported
So you would,
model. Yeah.
yes, and you would have a bunch of, I don't have one unfortunately right now. Not sure if Hunter does, but this would normally come as a part of, like, you'd have standard hinges. And if you're working at an eyewear company, you would have standard hinges as well. And if you don't have one and just want to make one for the sake of just presentation, you could use our primitive objects. So I'm just going to use this and make, so a hinge is basically a bunch of little rectangles arranged in that way, right? So I will just have a rectangle this way and then a rectangle this way that goes in from here, and then one that sits in over here, something like this. But usually you wouldn't be modeling something as detailed as a hinge. I think that that would come standard, and then you can just import that in and place that where you want it to be. And to show the placement of the hinge, that as a placeholder while you do your ID work around the shape of the frame, I would use something like primitive objects like this to just show that a hinge would go over there.
Yeah, so I do on that model that I imported have some hinges here.
Like,
And again, like this is the kind of thing that you can kind of drop in. So this is, I put a mirror on this one surface. And
Yeah, this is great.
if you're looking to break up the model, I think like for the hinges themselves, importing those or like Karthik said, like using primitives to generate the placeholder of it is a really powerful way to communicate that. But if you want to separate the model to more or less put a cut here, right, where that hinge is, so that you can move those parts independently. Usually what I would do is I can go in here, and Karthik already talked a little bit about that separate tool, and separating along those surface edges with that tool is a pretty good way to then separate out those arms. And hitting check on that, now I could this group out of the way. Got some, actually, I'll just hide that layer. 1 second. Yeah. So now this part is separated and I can bake it. So that bug that we're seeing that was happening is because this at one point was connected along the mirror plane. I disconnected it. So it still has that kind of localized mirror, which we use a lot for steering wheels and seats and things like that. But now I can group this whole arm together and move those inward, evaluate things that way. And in this case, it will break the continuity of it. So we'll notice right in here where that used to all be continued surfaces. When we separate it, because of the way subdivision works, it's going to create these little gaps. So I can go back in and I can clean that up by adding some more edge loops there, creasing those edges. There's a couple different ways to do that. But it makes it just a little bit more work to make sure that that's still operating where you want it to be. But definitely a really helpful way. Oftentimes what we'll do in automotive is rather than actually separating out that surface, we will take like a black line, turn it flat, and actually sketch that body panel cut to give an indication of where those are. Because at the end of the day, because we can't really animate in Gravity Sketch, it's usually better if you want to have parts move to build them continuous in here, export it, cut it up if you want to after it's been subdivided and applied. But having these kinds of lines still let us ideate and communicate where we intend those surface cuts and edges to actually be.
Yeah, I
that's a good
think
point.
I think the designer's biggest skill is definitely just communication. I think more than a perfectly done hinge or a perfectly done cut line, if you can communicate that well to hand off to the team, because it's not an individual job, right? You're working with so many other teams, so many other types of stakeholders who are doing different things at the companies you're working at. And if as long as you can communicate with them, your design intent, I think that's the biggest skill a designer can have.
These glasses that you copied over here, Jaren, are awesome.
Thanks, man.
These are
Love
super
the,
cool.
love the underlying sketch.
It makes me like, I don't know. This is the fun part of industrial design and product design, is going from a sketch like this to say, okay, how in the heck would you make that, and how would you get that to market, and would it make sense to have, like, I'm sure in eyewear there's a lot of processes that I'm not privy to, but it just, I don't know. It just gets me excited to look at something like this, and it's like, oh, if this was all one solid piece, what's the manufacturing process look like? How does that feel on your face? Is there spring in the material that alleviates the need for the arms, right? Like that kind of stuff just gets me excited.
I'm not sure if you can 3D print translucent material yet. Can you?
You can, as well, post processing in a lot of the workflows to do it, and it might not have the same refractive index that you need for like prescription eyewear, but that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Especially with
That'd be
like the laser sintering, or not the sintering, I guess SLA. I think you can print translucent. Translucent.
It annoys me a lot how long it takes to get a pair of prescription glasses. And then maybe 3D printing it would, like, you can make them much quicker, made to order stuff, that would be so cool.
Yeah, we worked a lot with in my previous experience with polyjet printers, which are really cool because they basically work like an inkjet, but they're printing resin and then coming back over and curing it. But they have multiple print heads, so you can actually create a model that has textures applied, that has logos applied. Stratasys makes a lot of really good ones. Objet printers are really good too. But
Yeah, we literally saw one yesterday at the company we were at.
Yeah, they're super cool. They a lot of times they print in like this boogery goop block though, which is not so fun to clean, but they're still really, really cool printers.
Yeah, they can do like color breaks as well, right?
Yeah, you can do color breaks. You can have images applied to it where it prints the image embedded in the actual resin. So things like decals, you can print directly onto those. There's, I mean, they're awesome. I'm a nerd for those. Johnson Johnson has some awesome workflows with printers like that.
I'm curious if that's at all achievable with FDM. I'm wondering. I guess with the layer lines, it's quite difficult, but I have seen there's videos online of how to get FDM printers to print like basically almost perfectly clear cubes, but your settings got to be dialed in like really pretty close.
Yeah, like near perfect.
I am obsessed over this gloss shader. I love this new gloss
So
shader.
good.
It does look super cool. That is such a nice, like, direct interpretation of what I was inspired by with that anime character. The idea of like having a pretty much opaque lens that looks like a blindfold or something, but that is really just, I think that's a pretty cool fashion approach. Again, I'm not a fashion expert. I don't really know anything about fashion. If anyone's ever seen me in person, pretty much just wear all black all the time. But that's really cool. I would wear that, and I'd feel good about myself wearing that too.
Yeah, I think that's a cool concept you were talking about earlier with the fabric and everything. Yeah, guys, this has been really fun. I just realized that we planned to do like a quick little Blender export, but probably we've just really ran out of time. I think it would be great. I was kind of in the beginning. I wasn't talking about it, but I was doing I was going through the import menu there. Let's see. I'll just talk about that really quickly, just so we can get that. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. But if we go to, let's see, we can just go to reference models and go to apparel, human body here. I use the head, but you can see here that it's a bit of just a better visualization of your model. You can control the orientation it comes in, as well as all the other normal things as far as like controlling scale. You actually get some additional info, which is really nice. You can see how many parts, how many vertices, how many triangles. And it's just really nicely laid out here, even the file size. So you're just presented with a lot more information in just a very easy to digest way. And it goes the same for export. If I go here to export, I think it's bringing in a huge window. Oh, there's like an object way out here. That's why. Yeah. I'll just close that. Oops. I think can you guys hear me still?
Yep.
Okay. My headset. I think I zoomed out really far and
You are huge,
Yeah.
Jaren. You are huge at the moment.
Yeah, it freaked out on me. It freaked out on me because I think I went too big, and there's like some weird stuff.
You reach critical
Oh,
mass.
here we go. I'm back. Coming back in. Okay, it's just had to think for a second. Okay, but basically it's roughly the same for the export menu there, and it just present you with a lot of the same information as before. But presented in a bit of a nicer way. This example, we're seeing like a huge window because I think there's a big object out there. It's really not great to do it in a collab situation just because there's so much stuff in the room. So I think this might be better to demo in an individual sketch.
But what I would normally do if I'm in like a massive collab room like this with many people working and I have to export my stuff, I will literally just create a prefab. So if you go into the import models, right, and then you can go just grab anything you want to drop in. Oh, where is that gone now, by the way? Oh, interesting. Jaren, do you know how I would create a prefab now?
I think you just drop it directly into that import, and it creates a prefab.
It's no longer. No, I can't do it anymore. Have you done it since the update?
Yeah, there might be a new way to do that.
Yeah, the way that I've done it is just that menu. So like right now I have this one up for eyewear. If I grab my object, then it'll open up with a little box right there that says turn to prefab. So I can turn that into glasses one. Yeah, and now it's in there for me.
It's working now. So yeah, exactly. So I would just grab and drop it into like the folder I want to as a prefab and name it whatever you want. So I'll name mine export one, and then I just go on to landing pad and then I can quickly export it on landing pad. So that's how I would do specific things. So say if I just wanted to export a specific sketch in this room full of 50 plus sketches at this point, that's what I would do. It's just much easier, much nicer, it's much cleaner, and I prefer doing that. Unless you want to export the entire room, in which case, yeah, feel free to do it within Gravity Sketch.
That's great. Well, thank you guys so much. We're over time now, but definitely really appreciate everybody that's joined and listening to us talk about different workflows and just kind of chat about design and collaboration. I hope that this was educational in some way and maybe inspire some of you out there to jump right in and start working through some of your own ideas. But yeah, thanks so much. In the comments, when this is over, you can continue commenting on the video. If you've got any ideas, any different types of live content or topics you'd like to see us cover, just drop it in the comments and let us know. We're really all open ears and willing to try any topic. That's what Live Sketch is for. So really thank all of you for listening, and thank you, Kartik. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you guys for your time today, and we'll see you guys very soon.
Yeah, I love it with sunglasses look, Hunter. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. All right. Thanks, guys.